Alright, this is the special right triangles video. Okay, the first type of special right triangle is a 45, 45, 90. Okay, in a 45, 45, 90, there are two 45-degree angles, which is marked in the picture here. Okay, so this angle over here is 45, and this angle over here is 45. And then, of course, the right angle is the right angle. Okay? In this type of triangle, the legs are congruent. Okay? So that means that this side is equal to this side. Okay? The legs are the two sides that make up the right angle. It is not the hypotenuse. So the two legs are these two sides that make up the right angle. Okay? Not the hypotenuse. And they're equal, and that's why they're labeled an S, because they are the same. The hypotenuse is the square root of 2 times the length of the legs. Okay, so that's why this here is S times square root of 2. The hypotenuse is the side across from the right angle, which you should know. Okay, the hypotenuse is the longest side, and it's across from the right angle. And that side is the the leg times the square root of 2. So you'll often see me write it like this. Hypotenuse equals legs times square root of 2. The SAT gives you this formula, and it's given to you exactly like this picture. Alright. So, for example, we have example 1 here. The leg is 5. This is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. I know that because this angle is 45. And this is a right angle. So that means that this must be a 45, 45, 90 triangle. If you take 180 minus 90 minus 45, this other angle will be 45. Okay? I gave you the formula over here. Okay? Just the way the SAT gives it, so this is the way that you'll be able to look at it and use it. Okay, looking at this picture, the two sides are equal. S is equal to S. So if this side is 5, then X must be 5. Okay, so I'm halfway done. I already have one answer. Okay, the hypotenuse is S, which is the side or the leg, times the square root of 2. So that means Y, the hypotenuse over here, must be S, the leg, which is 5, times the square root of 2, which is just 5 square root 2. That's it. Okay, so these are my two answers. X is 5 and Y is 5 square root 2. Alright, example 2. Again, I have my formula over here that I can use. Okay, the formula says that these two sides are both S. Okay, so if this side is 3 square root 2, then this side over here, X, must also be 3 square root 2. Alright, in the formula it says that this side is S times the square root of 2, so that means that this side over here, Y, must be S, which is 3 square root 2, times square root 2. This came from being S, and this came from the formula. Okay? Alright, when you multiply square roots, you multiply the coefficients together. So I'm going to multiply 3 and 1. 3 times 1 is 3. And then you multiply your square roots together. So I'm going to multiply 2 and 2 and get 4. Okay, and then factor tree or put it in the calculator. The square root of 4 is really 2. Okay, the 2's will come out. Nothing will be left inside. Okay, 3 is already on the outside. So 3 times 2 is 6. So y is actually 6. X is 3 square root 2. Alright. Again, I'm given the formula. Okay, in this particular example, I'm given the hypotenuse. Okay, so I'm given s square root 2. Okay, so if the hypotenuse is s square root 2, then s must be 7. And that's it. Both of these sides are equal. S and S are the same. So if this side is 7, this side is also 7. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Okay, this number out here is S. Okay, so those two sides are 7. Alright, this one I'm given the side. Again, in our formula, these two sides are the same. So if this side is 6 square root 5, this side is also 6 square root 5. Okay, the hypotenuse is s square root 2, so the side or the leg, square root 2, so the side or the leg is 6 square root 5. The square root of 2 is the square root of 2. So again, when you multiply square roots together, you multiply your coefficients. 6 times 1 is 6. And you multiply your square roots together. Square root 5 times square root 2 is square root 10. Okay, and then you factor tree. 10 breaks down to 2 and 5. And that's it. 2 is prime, 5 is prime, nothing gets circled. So the answer for the hypotenuse is 6 stays on the outside, 2 and 5 stay on the inside. So it's just 6 square root 10. Alright, the next type of special triangle is a 30, 60, 90. Okay, a 30, 60, 90 triangle has a 30-degree angle, a 60-degree angle, and a 90-degree angle, hence the name. Okay, in a 30, 60, 90 triangle, the hypotenuse is twice the length of the short leg. Okay, so the hypotenuse is always the longest leg, it's always, or the longest side, it's always across from the right angle, and this is always twice the short leg. Okay, the short leg is the shortest leg in the picture. It should look like the shortest side. The shortest leg will also be across from the 30-degree angle. Okay, but it should be pretty obvious in these pictures which side is the short leg. Okay, the long leg is the square root of 3 times the short leg. Okay, so the long leg here is the square root of 3 times the short leg, and that's always across from the 60-degree angle. So this is the long leg. Okay, this is the short leg. Oh my. Let me try that again. There we go. The red side's the short leg. Okay, and the hypotenuse is the hypotenuse. It's across from the right angle. It is the longest side. It's not the longest leg, but it's the longest side. So you have the hypotenuse, which is the hypotenuse, and then you have these two other sides. One's shorter than the other, one's longer than the other, so we label them short and long. So we have short, long, and the hypotenuse. And from there, the formulas are labeled in the picture. The short side is x, the long side is x square root 3, and the hypotenuse is just 2 times x. Okay, and this formula, again, is this picture is given to you on the SAT, so that's the formula I'll be using in all your examples on your worksheets and quizzes. Okay, so again, your formula is given to you here in your picture. Okay, if you look, the short side is x. In the picture, the short side's over here, so that's 9. So x is 9. Okay, the hypotenuse is across from the right angle. That would be x in the picture. Okay, the hypotenuse is 2 times x. Okay, so if I come over here, 2 times the short side. Okay, so if I come over here, that should be 2 times 9. 9 is the short side. So the hypotenuse is 18. Okay, the long leg is the bottom here. The long leg is x times the square root of 3, and x is the short side. Okay, so I can take the short side, which is 9, times the square root of 3, and that's it. Okay. Alright, example 2. Okay, the hypotenuse is given to us here. Okay, the hypotenuse is 24. Okay, and in the formula, the hypotenuse is 2 times x, which is the short leg. So we have 2x is 24. Okay, so if I divide that by 2, x is 12, and x in the formula is the short side, so the short side must be 12 over here. Okay, the long side is the only thing I'm missing now. That's the bottom of the triangle. The long side in the formula is x square root 3. Well, x is the short side, okay, which I labeled in red. Okay, so the short side was 12 times the square root of 3 is just 12 square root 3. Okay, so it seems complicated because there's square roots involved, but it's pretty easy to move from one side to the next and get all 3 of them covered. Alright, in this triangle I have the short side. Okay, it's not as clear in this picture because the way I cut and pasted it, but it is the short side. It's across from the 30-degree angle. Okay, the short side in the formula is just x, so I'm given x. So I can jump straight to the hypotenuse pretty easily. The hypotenuse is 2 times x. Okay, so the formula says it's 2 times whatever x is, and x is 8 square root 2. 2 times the short leg. Okay, when you multiply square roots, you multiply your coefficients together. So 2 times 8 is 16. And then square root 2 has nothing to multiply with, so that's your hypotenuse. Alright, your long leg is the only thing we're missing now, and the long leg is the x, which is the short side, the red side, times the square root of 3. So that would be x, the short side is 8 square root 2 times the square root of 3 from the formula. When you multiply square roots, you multiply your coefficients, so 8 times 1 is 8, and then 2 times 3 in the square root is 6. Okay, then you can try to factor tree 6, but 6 breaks down into 2 and 3, so nothing gets circled. So the long side here would be 8 square root 6, and nothing gets broke down. So the answers look ridiculous, but it's not hard to find just using the formula. All the information is given to you in the picture. Alright. In this picture, I'm actually given the long side. Again, the way I cut and pasted this, it doesn't really look like the long side, but it is across from the 60-degree angle. Okay, so that would be x square root 3. So if I'm looking for x here, okay, then divide by square root 3. Square root 3 divided by square root 3 goes away, and I'll have x equals 11 square root of 3 divided by square root of 3. Again, anything divided by itself is 1, so square root 3 divided by square root 3 divides to be 1. 11 times 1 is 11. Okay, so that means x over here, the short side is x, so the short side over here is just 11. Okay, I did that solving so I could figure out what the short side was, and now I can use x to get everything else. Okay, the hypotenuse, the longest side over here, is 2 times x. Again, x is the short side, so 2 times 11 is 22. Okay, so once I have the short side x, then I can find everything.